What began as public submissions before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee took a twist when former Financial Services head at Crime Intelligence Hlungwani took to the hot seat and cried foul over his career displacement. He says when looking at some of the issues that bedevil crime intelligence, look no further than the ANC.
It was going to be used to fund this conference.
From one scathing testimony to another, no one is left behind as the City of Johannesburg executive came forward to detail the conduct of now suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, during his time in the City of Gold.
You've got what I refer to a prima facie fugitive from the law. Then you've got a prima facie serial lawbreaker.
And hostility brewed inside Parliament's chambers as lawmakers clashed with some civil society organizations over the credibility of their submissions and the sweeping nature of their recommendations. Tempers flared, and at one point, accusations of dishonesty were traded across the floor. This underscoring the deep divisions over how the national legislature should respond to the allegations of criminal infiltration and political interference in the criminal justice system.
I take exception to being told that I'm not truthful.
And as the work of the inquisitorial body is due to end soon, the testimony heard this week is expected to assist members of Parliament join the dots and weigh the balance of probabilities. Would the reasonable person reach the same conclusion as that of KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Qodashe? For now, though, the committee is seized with these questions. Why did Hlungwani say he was abruptly removed from key systems in crime intelligence? Who, according to him, pushed for the alleged diversion of its funds? And how does law enforcement become entangled in politics? Hello and welcome to another wrap of the week that was before Parliament's fact-finding body on Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405. I'm Zoleka Qodashe. Join me as we connect the dots and make sense of Hlungwani's testimony. Hlungwani is a former official within the South African Police Service who worked as the head of financial services in crime intelligence. This means Hlungwani was in charge of the spook's purse, the Secret Service account or crime intelligence's Slush fund. The purpose of this fund is to finance the covert operations by crime intelligence, whose mandate is to proactively prevent crime. But on the 13th of December 2017, he would be pulled out of a strategic planning meeting by then acting crime intelligence head General Ngobo, who said izwe liyahamba, which translates to the country is slipping away.
ANC conference in Nasrec. I was requested to release some monies by the then National Commissioner, General Stole. These monies were, apparently going to be used to buy a grabber machine, but the grabber machine was much lower than the monies which were required. So I refused, I refused to accede to that request. And after the conference, my life changed because, I was subjected to serious occupational detriment. One thing I may add maybe is that General Stole, for instance, had promised the politicians the condition of his appointment was that he was going to use some of those monies to fund this conference for one of the factions in that particular conference.
Ngobo purportedly warned Hlungwani that he had been the subject of disparaging comments made by then Police Minister Fikile Mbalula for his refusal to release funds for a grabber, a tool used to intercept communication that he said would be used at the gathering of the former governing party. As a result, a grabber from Israel was to be procured for 45 million rand.
I was tasked to basically process that transaction for 45 million, and I refused, but I gave the generals reasons why, it can be done. And then the following day, to cut the very long story short, in fact, I went to see Brigadier Qili, at the time legal advisor for crime intelligence, to seek advice. Then he advised me not to get involved, and to just, as I already did, just to tell the generals, what the problems are with that transaction. But we went to see General Stolle the following day. We met at the police college, and the general insisted that, this transaction must go on. If it meant that we speak to Mr. Malusi Kigaba, at the time finance minister.
The procurement of this grabber was urgent, according to Ngobo, who claimed that terrorist organizations, the CIA, French, German, as well as British intelligence, had descended upon Nasrec in the south of Johannesburg, where the ANC would be holding its elective conference to influence the outcome of that election.
Why was it necessary to use a grab to eavesdrop on the processes of ANC conference? Why was it necessary? Do you do that? Is it standard practice that you do that in all party political conferences?
Not that
Or it was specifically for the ANC?
Not that I'm aware of, Chairperson. What I do know is that, people wanted money, they wanted the grabber, they said that there are international intelligence agencies, there are terrorist organizations that are there in the conference, therefore they want to use the grabber for that.
Hlungwani allegedly revealed that there was 109 million rand in the slush fund, and that, on a previous occasion, crime intelligence had been offered 7 grabbers for 10 million rand each. But he alleges that this did not suffice for parties present at this meeting, who dismissed him, arguing that he was speaking from a layman's financial point of view because he did not have any technical knowledge of the equipment. But it was a state-of-the-art product, according to the police officials, who were tasked with monitoring the intercepted conversations. And then, National Police Commissioner General Qodashe Sithole, appointed on the 1st of December 2017, wanted the documents drafted and the purchase made immediately.
General Stolle, for instance, had promised the politicians, the condition of his appointment was that he was going to use some of those monies to fund this conference for one of the factions in that particular conference.
According to Hlungwani, the price of a single grabber was significantly lower than 45 million rand, and it was his belief that some of the funds would be diverted.
You seem to believe that this money, this 46 million, is that the correct figure?
45, yes.
45 million for the grabber.
Yeah.
Was its intention was to fund the ANC conference, correct?
Intelligence operatives, they even have a document, and I think you might have people in the CI, they have a document which points to this particular matter to say it was going to be used to fund this conference. Even Mr. McBride, he came here. He was investigating this thing. He came here to say this was going to be used. The same intelligence operatives.
So a portion of this amount was not going to purchase the grabber, was going to be taken for ANC conference affairs.
I firmly agree with that.
The tool would be sourced from a company called iView, already under investigation by the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, or IPID. However, despite receiving word that the then Minister's advisor, Bongani Mbindwane, allegedly knew nothing of the purchase, Hlungwani forged ahead, and on the 14th of December that same year, Hlungwani did as he was told and finalized the documents. But it was all systems go until a call from IPID changed the course of the plan.
You are saying, after now, when you got to Nasrec, ultimately you agreed that you must not carry on with buying this grabber. After you went to Nasrec and met the people you met there. So, and then they said to you, you must pay 9 million for services already rendered, correct?
For services already rendered.
Were those services quantified to you?
Not to my knowledge.
And who said you must pay this 9 million?
It's not 9 million. I think it was about 7 million.
7 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
General Ngobo. Okay, first it was General Tsumani who said we're gonna have to pay this person for the services already rendered.
Yes.
And then
did you ask which services?
I don't know.
No, I'm saying during your conversation, did you ask which services?
I didn't ask.
Rendered?
The foiled plan would be the beginning of Hlungwani's woes, who alleges that he was forced to accept a temporary transfer to the Intelligence Collections Section on the 10th of September 2019, a position he was not qualified for and one that did not exist within the crime intelligence structure. This is where he would spend 6 years without being assigned any tasks.
There's a fallout from the Nasrec conference. I was arrested and detained. I went through a trial which lasted for a very long time. You know, the allegation was that I had given instruction for money to be transferred into a personal bank account. And then that I have backdated a deviation letter, and therefore it was fraud.
But some lawmakers believe Hlungwani is simply downplaying his role in the scandal.
Let me put it to you, you are misleading this committee.
In what manner, sir?
You, when I'm saying you, I'm saying you as a brigadier.
Yes, sir.
Which as well, you know, unfortunately, as you said, I heard you are saying, no, we don't need a trained policeman to be the head. We can have everyone like Ria Piecha in other ways.
Yes.
But I'm putting to you now that you, Brigadier, Section Head, Finance and Admin Service, 2016-12, on the 20th, you recommended that, I view. Do you agree with me?
I do agree, but you must understand this in context.
No.
No.
The context, I have it here. I've read that. For you to repeat it again, it will be the waste of time. I'm saying to you, you have recommended that as well. You signed for it, and you said you've never signed for anything, you never participated there. That's what you said earlier.
No. I said there was no panel that dealt with this this particular matter. And
right.
My signature was to indicate availability of funds. Remember, I even stated here that when I stated my responsibilities, I'm talking to the budget. And there was a budget to proceed with this matter.
For Hlungwani, it was downhill from the minute he allegedly prevented the misuse of the Secret Service account. And after he was ejected from the system, he says it would be new crime intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo who would ensure that he wasn't absorbed back into the system. After the break, we unpack what Hlungwani submitted about Khumalo and why he believes the chief spook was fraudulently appointed. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for staying with us as we take a deeper dive into Lincoln Hlungwani's testimony and look at why he believes Crime Intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo's appointment was fraudulent and how an appeal to go back to work failed after 2 judges allegedly heard his matter in his absence.
Tell me, why are you taking pictures of my phone, of my car?
These are the events that unfolded as Hlungwani caught a fellow police officer secretly taking pictures of his car. And the person who gave the instruction for the stalking was allegedly Crime Intelligence head Dumisani Khumalo. But how did a relationship between 2 colleagues become strained? According to Hlungwani, it began when he blew the whistle on Khumalo's appointment.
There must be exceptional circumstances that warrant a deviation from advertising the post of, Divisional Commissioner Crime Intelligence. So this post was not advertised. General Khumalo was just appointed without the advertisement of the post. And I believe that it is the same with how he became a Major General. So for the position of Divisional Commissioner for Crime Intelligence, I continue to say that he did not have the experience.
The regulations of the SAPS employment allow the National Commissioner to promote an employee without advertising the post and without following the normal selection process, provided there's a written motivation, consultation with the minister, and the employee fully qualifies for the position. Meanwhile, when Khumalo appeared before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee, he told lawmakers that he had 2 security clearances.
I was approached by, as one of the senior managers, by the individuals who had direct knowledge to this issue, and they complained about, how, they've been, they were put under pressure to grant General Khumalo a security clearance. I spoke to Brigadier Qili, the legal advisor at the time, and only to find that some of the members spoke to him, and he made a complaint to the Inspector General of Intelligence. And the Inspector General confirmed these allegations that are contained here.
Hlungwani alleges that Brigadier Moyana, the section head for counter-investigations, put pressure on vetting officers, telling them to finalize Khumalo's security clearance by 4 p.m. on the 2nd of December 2022, as the National Commissioner wanted to issue him with a security clearance certificate by that date. Not only that, but Hlungwani alleges that while Khumalo was heading up the political killings task team in KwaZulu-Natal, he was staying in a hotel with the secretary at a cost of 58,000 rand a month, totaling an amount of around 6 million rand. Later that month, on the 29th of December 2022, Major General Gegana, who was appointed as an investigation officer in one of Hlungwani's matters, concluded that he should return to work after being removed from his position as head of financial services, as failure to do so resulted in the infringement of his rights.
Even in the court papers, he said that I cannot allow him back at work because the NPA is appealing his matter, and I do not want him to interfere with witnesses. But the state has closed its case already. So, and ironically, Chairperson, when General Khumalo was arrested for what many believe to be HR matters, although HR matters are also in the Corruption Act, are covered in the Corruption Act.
That's the arrest by the
by the IDEC.
yes,
Yes.
IDEC.
Yeah. So ironically, he wanted to go back to work because he says no, his rights were being infringed. But with me, he did not want me to go back to my position because he knows that when I was there, we were able to run that account to the best of our abilities, but ensuring that it funds the legitimate operations. And whenever there was an issue of corruption, I did not hesitate to open a case so that they are investigated.
But a month after his appointment, Khumalo would launch an investigation into Hlungwani, who explained that he was not working due to being shifted to the non-existent role. However, this did little to help Hlungwani's case, who would soon be dismissed. But after being cleared of any wrongdoing, another challenge was looming.
And the appeal was upheld, and your dismissal was confirmed. I don't understand how that could be the logical outcome of you facing charges.
Yeah.
You were acquitted. The acquittal is appealed. 2 judges uphold the appeal. What happens to your job?
Okay. So, Chairperson, what happened in this matter is that NPA was pressurized to appeal the matter, and they took advantage of the fact that I was self-represented in the trial. So what happened is that the matter was heard without my knowledge, and the judges, as I would expect, of, for lack of a better word, of sober judges, would have indicated that, look,
Did you know the matter was set down for hearing?
I didn't even know.
But how could the matter be heard in Hlungwani's absence?
Instead of delivering the notices of appeal directly to me, because the NPA as well as the investigating officer had my addresses, it was delivered directly to General Khumalo's office. And subsequent to that, I requested the NPA to deliver these further particulars to me.
For Hlungwani, there's little innocence in one of the factions of the SAPS.
Qodashe and Masemula received Louis Vuitton, and in terms of the information that you got inside those bags, there were monies.
Yes.
100,000 each.
100,000 each, yes.
Who told you that?
Maybe let me say it this way. The matter is being investigated, as you might know. It is being investigated.
Yeah, but remember, we're also investigating here. So we can't be told that the matter is investigated as if we're just doing an academic exercise.
Yeah.
Who told you that Qodashe and Masemula received 100,000? Because, Mr. Hlungwani, we're not really interested in words. We want proof because we're probing.
Yes.
And we want to take things further.
Further, yes.
So kindly help us with evidence showing that they received 100,000 each.
I'll answer it this way, sir. What I can say is that, and General Masemula knows this, there was at some point a warning statement, and Mr. Robert McBride at the time was removed, as you know, and there was disruption in that investigation. So what I will say is that I won't be able to reveal my source, but I implore you to follow up on the investigation.
But what are the fractures within the higher echelons of the police service really about?
The competition is the Secret Services account, you know, and as well as crime intelligence itself.
And it's the view of many that the war rages on and SAPS apparatus is used to fight all the battles.
There is a well-established culture within the South African Police Service to weaponize regulations in order to target those that do not share the same view with the authorities at any given point in time. What do you think we need to do in order to change that actuality?
Honorable Chief Whip, it's about appointing the right people. And I must say that
Mr. Hlungwani, the problem, everybody that has been appointed, I'm quite certain that at the time when the appointer does the appointment, doesn't pick up that there's a wrong person. It may be very difficult to give a name of a person that was a wrong appointment from the start. I think people change in the system, so we may have to change the system in such a way that it conditions individuals to a particular line of doing things. I don't know, I'm just asking, because we have an experience, we've been inside, and I think you're outside.
yes, sir. What I can say is that chronism is embedded in the police, and you know, when it happened even with General Stolle. When he got there, the first people that he appointed as deputy national commissioners, the very first people that he appointed as a national commissioner are two deputy national commissioners who were his very close allies, you see. So when your close allies are there, what happens? Some of them get overly, for lack of a better word, overly excited. They act with impunity. Now, nobody can do anything to them. It's the same with General Khumalo at the moment. If you can track the history, and I know that Honorable Souls at some point tried to work on that matter. If you can track the history of the three senior officers, whenever this one is appointed somewhere, this one will be elevated, you see. So it's chronism which is embedded, and I cannot tell you that it's going to stop now.
Hlungwani's testimony sent members of parliament into a whirlwind, just as they believed they were beginning to conclude the work of the inquisitorial body. However, his testimony has been called into question, with lawmakers questioning whether his intention was really to assist the committee in its quest to get to the bottom of allegations of the capture of the nucleus of South Africa's constitutional democracy. After the break, we look at more critical testimony and how it relates to suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya. Stay with us. Welcome back as we cast our minds back to October 2025, when Shadrack Sibiya was before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee to face questions about his past roles. One of them was unit head at the City of Johannesburg, but the circumstances surrounding his appointment and his conduct while in the City of Gold became the subject of scrutiny yet again, as Mesuli Mlandu, Special Projects Advisor in the Office of the City Manager, gave his testimony about a matter he previously raised in 2016, 10 years before. In 2016, ousted Gauteng Hawks head Shadrack Sibiya would make a remarkable comeback after his sacking in 2015. Sibiya was fingered together with National Hawks boss Anwar Dramat in what became known as the Zimbabwe rendition saga. The pair was accused of facilitating the unlawful deportation of 5 Zimbabwean nationals, some of whom would meet their death on the other side of the Beitbridge border. But a year later, Sibiya was appointed unit head at the City of Johannesburg by then DA Mayor Herman Mashaba.
The employment of General Sibiya is a simple one. He applies to be a unit head in the City of Johannesburg. And that's the advert goes out in October 2016. Then the interviews run on the 7th of November, and General Sibek is appointed on the following day, and he becomes the unit head. That's basically the only appointment letter that General Sibiya has.
But shortly after, in January 2017, Sibiya is said to have been masquerading as a head of department for forensic and investigation services.
This plan to make Shadrack Sibiya a head of department is hashed on the 4th of November, 3 days before he's appointed. A legal opinion is sought to check as to whether, even though he's applying to be a unit head, he's going to be interviewed for a unit position. A legal opinion is being sought as to whether he cannot be made a head of department. And the legal opinion says no.
It was only after his appointment that Sibiya would take a competency assessment for his role, a test he failed on the 22nd of November 2017. The law firm took the preliminary view that Sibiya should be investigated as prima facie evidence showed that he had been unlawfully appointed, and Mlandu believes Mashaba and the city's former head of legal services must account for allegedly committing the fraud valued at approximately 3.5 million rand.
On the 21st of June 2023, the council then decided that everything that was ever said about General Sibiya must be investigated. And that is why then you see here, there was a committee that was established by council to look into these matters.
The legal opinion also set out the process Sibiya would need to follow for appointment as head of department. That role would force him to first relinquish his position as unit head, which could have potentially left him exposed.
Section 56 of the Systems Act is a section that regulates the appointments of heads of departments. So now they are clarifying. They say the role in its current form, which is the unit head role in its current form, is not a senior manager. And thus, Section 56 and the regulations applicable to senior managers is not applicable, and they're correct. It's a unit head, and the other one is going to be the fixed-term contract. And then they say, however, in the event that this role reports directly to the city manager, then Section 56 will apply if the candidate is appointed into this role at this time. It may mean that the city would have to retrench the incumbent. If you appoint him now, you may want to retrench the incumbent by virtue of the current position becoming redundant. He would have to reapply for the role in accordance with the requirements of Section 56 and the relevant regulations. There would be no guarantee of his suitability for the role as a Section 56. It must be borne in mind that the duty to consult the employee who could be affected by the restructure kicks in as soon as the employer contemplates the restructure, which could potentially lead to the incumbency suicide.
However, according to Mlandu, this report would be blocked by then-Council Speaker Vasco da Gama, and it turns out he wasn't the only one who ignored the calls for action.
I then supplement my report, both to the Minister of Police and the Minister of Cocta. So I supplement, because at this time, we have become aware that not only this General Sibiya is fraudulently employed, we've discovered that he has also bought a spyware.
This spyware was obtained from China in April 2019 for what Mlandu has called unlawful intelligence operations.
For you to know that there is a problem here about this spyware, you then have to go to the government gazette that was issued by the Minister of Justice in 2005. In that government gazette, any equipment that is capable of doing this, you can only procure it on authorization by the Minister of Justice. That's Section 44 of RICA.
In 2022, 2 cases would be opened. one over his alleged fraudulent appointment and the other for the unlawful procurement of spy equipment. Mlandu escalated the matter to then Police Minister Bheki Cele and former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, or COGTA, Thembi Nkadimeng.
The only minister who responded to me is Minister Cele, and this is very material for this committee. He was here. What did he say? He said, I don't know who this Mesuli is. Who? Mesuli? Who? Mlandu? I don't know that person. 2, I've never received any report from Mlandu. And 3, who the hell he think he is that he can write to the minister? Those are the 3 things that he said here. So if you look at the heading of the email, it talks about my supplementary report. He says, and you look at it, it's addressed to so many people, not just me, even there's a DPSI, I don't know who are those people there. He says, good day, Mr. Mlandu. Your below email dated 1 August with the above subject matter and attached report is hereby well acknowledged by the Office of the Minister of Police. The contents of the report has been brought, not will be brought, has been brought to the attention of the Minister, and the necessary feedback shall be submitted in due course.
In 2023, the Labour Appeal Court found in Sibiya's favour and cleared him in the Zimbabwe rendition scandal. The court ordered that he be reinstated within the SAPS, prompting National Police Commissioner General Fani Masemola to appoint the controversial figure as a second-in-command and South Africa's Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection.
Those are the 3 things that we were bringing to the attention of General Bheki Cele. We brought it to the attention of the Minister of COGTA. We brought it to the attention of the NPA. You can't deny these documents. You just can't. So, if the NPA was able to charge Ivan Pillay at SARS for unlawful interception in terms of Section 49, why are we having General Sibiya walking in the streets?
It's been 6 months since the factions within the police service have played out for all to see. And as fact-finding bodies continue quizzing witnesses on the rot within law enforcement structures, some names have been recurring.
So what is bothering me is what message does it communicate about the systems, processes, and the security alertness when decisions are made to appoint people at that senior level?
Yes.
That's what frightens me, because it suggests that if anything we've heard about Lieutenant General Sibiya were to be confirmed to be true tomorrow, it therefore means that unless something drastically, very drastic is done, we may wake up one day as a country having a national commissioner who is the convener of national criminals in the country. That's the observation one is making. If anything we've heard about the man is anything to go by, from General Qodashe, from you, from Khumalo, and others, it worries me. I don't know if you want to make a comment, and that's my last comment. Thanks.
Yeah, look, the one thing that I can say, and I said this to the evidence leader, there are 2 allegations that I'm making about General Sibiya. One, I'm saying he's a prima facie fugitive from the law. That's the first allegation I'm making. The second one, when you look into what my reports were saying to the ministers, the second one is that he's a serial lawbreaker.
For Mlandu, the solution is simple. Sibiya should not occupy such a senior position within the SAPS, and more importantly, the National Prosecuting Authority should act with equal zest in prosecuting Sibiya, as IPID did with Khumalo. Whether this will form part of the recommendations of Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee remains to be seen as it consolidates the testimony presented before it. And as the work to draft its report is soon to begin, the recommendations made by members of the public and civic society organizations will also be taken into account. After the break, we look at what these submissions were and the submissions made on the work of KwaZulu-Natal's Political Killings Task Team. Thanks for staying with us as we circle back to the terms of reference of the Ad Hoc Committee and its mandate to investigate the veracity of claims made of criminal infiltration and political interference in the criminal justice system by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Hlungwani. Minister on leave of absence, Senzo Mchunu, has denied that his 31st of December 2024 directive for the disestablishment of the PKT team was influenced by criminal elements. He testified that the team was meant to be a temporary solution to a temporary problem. More importantly, Mchunu submitted that the budget of the PKTT could not be justified and that those funds could be redirected to serve a greater purpose. And some have agreed with him. The public submissions before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee did not introduce entirely new allegations. Instead, they reinforced, expanded, and contextualized what MPs have been hearing for weeks from crime intelligence bosses, suspended police generals, and ex-IPID heads. At the center of almost every submission, the claim that South Africa's policing and prosecutorial architecture has been systematically manipulated for political and factional ends.
Is dysfunctional because corruption with impunity is rampant in the land. And that is what this committee is going to have to address from the point of view of Parliament, which in our submission will involve the revision of the criminal justice administration's capacity to deal with corruption effectively.
Organizations pointed to the dismantling of specialized crime-fighting units as a turning point. Units such as the Scorpions, the original crime intelligence structures, and the disbanded anti-corruption task teams were described as casualties of political discomfort. According to submissions, these units were not closed because they were ineffective, but because they were effective in investigating politically connected individuals.
You've heard evidence from the acting Minister of Police before this committee, and he has conceded that it was a mistake to close down the Scorpions. And the reason why it was a mistake is because the Scorpions were a prosecution-led body which sought to counter corruption on a single agency basis and which was far too successful for its own good.
The solution? To establish an institution protected under Chapter 9 of the Constitution, reporting only to the National Assembly. This, pundits argue, would be difficult to dismantle, needing a two-thirds majority in Parliament.
The idea of a Chapter 9 institution is not written in stone. The court, when it said a body outside executive control, implored Parliament to make the reasonable decision of a reasonable decision maker in the circumstances. What we got out of that was the revised Hawks. Everybody agrees, including the President, that the Hawks are not up to the task of dealing with corruption in South Africa as it manifests in state capture, tenderpreneurism, and the like. So the idea of a Chapter 9 institution seems to be the most obvious. None of the Chapter 9 institutions answer to the executive branch of government.
But some comments angered certain members of the National Legislature.
He has no idea of ANC policy. He gives his interpretation of ANC policy, tells us what the NDR is, tells us what cadre deployment is. But I did not want to come in, although I felt that he is misrepresenting us. And if this continues, Chair, then this meeting is going to degenerate because we're going to have to keep calling points of order. So I request that Advocate Hoffman speaks to things that are within his factual knowledge and not try to impugn the African National Congress while trying to make his submissions.
But the overwhelming sentiment from lawmakers was that the amendment of the law does not guarantee a change.
Currently we have, you touched on it earlier on, the South African Human Rights Commission, established to do what? To act in the best interest of South Africans, to put South Africans first. As jy om jou nou kyk, Waar is the Human Rights Commission with everything that's happening in this country?
When the Zondo Commission completed its work, it recommended that Parliament fundamentally overhaul its oversight mechanisms to track anti-corruption measures by enhancing executive accountability, implementing regular reporting on progress, and establishing specialized structures. Now, 4 years later, the same recommendation is being made.
The ability of Parliament in terms of being able to effectively track progress and the impact of recommendations that it makes, that issues are brought to its attention, that it identifies an area of concern or a weakness, that it makes a recommendation that these be addressed, and that there is a timeous, coherent, and effective response.
And as the work of the PKTT is tracked, some experts believe its impact did little to contribute to a greater climate of safety within the crime-ridden province, and instead pulled resources from other critical areas.
We now have far fewer detectives. We had 27,000 in 2014. In 2025, the figures suggested we only have 16,000. This in turn leads to a reducing number of convictions and sentences for serious crime. Although the Department of Correctional Services stopped providing us with data on admissions of sentenced offenders, we know that in about 2001, 243,000 were sentenced to prison every year.
Mkhunu defended his controversial decision, arguing that the task team had become too costly and no longer offered value proportional to its expenditure. Mkhunu highlighted concerns about budgetary constraints within the South African Police Service, noting that the task team operational costs, including overtime and logistical expenses, had grown significantly, and that its continued funding could not be justified without approved budget extensions or clear oversight. And it seems this argument was convincing for some.
Which every year since 2018, they've had in the personnel expenditure table an anomalous expenditures of 8.6 billion associated with only 8 persons, which suggests that they are each earning $1 billion each.
Those who hail from the coastal province, however, disagree.
Is the question of mandate. Because in my view, and of course in terms of the evidence that has been led here, PKTT was actually formed to address a specific problem in KwaZulu-Natal, that of political killings, not any other killings. And of course in KwaZulu-Natal, there are lots of killings. Some of them are ordinary crime. People kill each other over a bottle of beer, And there is also faction fights in KwaZulu-Natal, which also contribute a lot to the murder rate.
The powers of Minister on leave of absence, Senzo Mkhunu, were thrust to the fore yet again. Did he have the legal authority to issue a directive for the disbandment of the PKTT?
The Constitution says that the National Commissioner controls and manages the police service subject to the directions of the Minister. And the Minister is responsible for the policing, which means that you, Parliament, can hold him to account for the performance of the police.
The Umkhonto Sizwe party took a dim view of this understanding of the law.
Our firm view is that, one, the Minister does not have powers in terms of the current constitution and in terms of the South African Police Service Act to enter into operational issues.
Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee was forced to accommodate public submissions at the last minute following the refusal by forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan and Northwest fixer Brown Mogotsi to appear before the inquisitorial body this week. Both parties cited security concerns. However, Mokgotzi's issues were slightly different.
Mr. Mokgotzi is not in a position to appear before the committee tomorrow. If you remember, Chair, Mr. Mokgotzi demanded that we should provide him with protection. I think it is his own people. And then I contacted Parliament's protection services for them to look at the issues that he was raising around his security. And the offer that he was given was that he can come to Cape Town, and then as soon as he lands, there will be protection offered or escorts offered. Mr. Mokgotzi refused that offer. He says that he doesn't want to be protected by people that he doesn't know.
Section 14 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities Act prescribes that a joint committee may summon any person to appear before it, while Section 56A of the Constitution provides that the National Assembly or any of its committees may summon any person to appear before it to give evidence on oath or affirmation. And these are the provisions the 11-member body has chosen to trigger. But with the inquisitorial body's work coming to an end on the 20th of February 2026, and in the absence of an extension, the Ad Hoc Committee will not have the legal authority to summon the witnesses it desperately seeks to have appear before it.
Well, our attitude at this point in time is that both Mr. Mokgotzi and Mr. O'Sullivan should be subpoenaed to appear before Parliament. We know and understand that such a process may take quite a long time, even beyond the time in which this committee is supposed to table its report to Parliament.
Parliament is still seized with the task of securing the attendance of Brown Mokgotzi and forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan before this ad hoc committee brings its work to a close. With the committee expected to finalize its work by the 20th of February, lawmakers now face a narrowing window to compel the appearance of two individuals whose names have repeatedly surfaced in testimony and whose evidence could prove pivotal in either corroborating or dismantling the explosive claims of criminal infiltration and political interference in South Africa's criminal justice system. Next week, the committee continues focusing on public submissions, where ordinary South Africans, civic organizations and whistleblowers will have an opportunity to place their versions on the record. It's a phase that could shape the final recommendations Parliament ultimately places before the nation. As Newzroom Africa, we'll continue bringing you analysis on the latest developments before the fact-finding body. I'm Zoleka Qodashe, and thanks for watching.